state in the nation, Republicans and Democrats certified the 2020 election results and sent a legal slate of electors to Congress for January 6th. Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Laura, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020. And my
No.
fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protests were all protests peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president, Donald Trump left the White House, and now, of course, unfortunately, we have all of the
You'll be pushing my reporter a little.
Oh, sorry.
Back.
Yeah.
I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation. I think that is a much bigger threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40 years. Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by 2 lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. Of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind the basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's done it over a number of other issues. And that, to me, is a much bigger threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight's debate. I think there was a lot of commonality here, and I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator. There's one though, that this one is troubling to me, and I say that because I think we need to tell the story. Donald Trump refused to acknowledge this, and the fact is that I don't think we can leave the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he didn't. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day. Some with the American flag, several later died. And it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group gathered on the state Capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, we're marching to the governor's residence and there may be casualties. The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police. That issue, and Mike Pence standing there as they were chanting, hang Mike Pence. Mike Pence made the right decision. So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election. You shake hands, and then you try and do everything you can to help the other side win. That's what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Margaret? Senator Vance, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, well, look, Tim, first of all, It's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We're going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we'll win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin because the Russians bought like $500,000 worth of Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think of revisionist history on this. Look, I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that Donald Trump didn't do it. And all of this, there's no place for repercussion. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is warfare. We've seen that brought up. I just think for everyone tonight, and I'm going to thank Senator Vance. I think this is the conversation they wanted to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement. This is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say, he is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just say that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of the government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't get fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks. That's not fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to respond to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this, I'm pretty shocked by this, he lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on the stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he can do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that. Because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be right back with both of our candidates. The CBS News Vice Presidential Debate continues.
Grab this guy right here. Oh, he's got a sticker. I got it. All right.
Sail through the heart of historic cities and unforgettable scenery with Viking. Unpack once and get closer to iconic landmarks, local life, and cultural treasures. Because when you experience Europe on a Viking longship, you'll spend less time getting there and more time being there. Viking, exploring the world in comfort.
We'll arrive in less than 90 minutes. Minor issues with the
right before a live show.
We're going to stick to the script.
When my hair started to thin, God, am I going to have any hair left?
After I gave birth, my hair wasn't even thinning, it was gone.
When I spoke to my dermatologist, he immediately pointed me in the direction that you're going.
Are you still
Within 3 months, my hair was fuller.
It's longer, it's so much thicker.
I had more scalp coverage.
It's so nice to be noticed for my hair after hiding it for so many years.
Start your hair growth journey at newsflow.com.
Okay. They're not getting so crap anymore. Is that just a post-COVID?
I do. I'm going to call chest congestion. Hello, 12 hours of relief. 12 hours? Not coffee? Hashtag still not coffee?
Use an XDM if you 12 hours of relief from chest congestion in any type of cough.
Not when they can.
Want a next level clean? Switch with the whoa of Listerine. It kills 99.9% of bad red germs for 5 times more cleaning power than brushing and flossing alone. Get a next level clean with Listerine.
I'm a cardiologist, and I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol. I also tell them they can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Qunol CoQ10. Qunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Qunol, the brand I trust.
I'll pronounce you Sam
So much.
In theaters November 1st, PG-13.
I'm Maddie. Right?
Matlock is in the old TV show, right?
Hello, hello, hello.
We got one shot. I didn't think you were that craftiness, Matlock. Playing band, thank you, man.
I don't think that means what you think it does.
Matlock, CBS Thursday, October 17th for CBS Premiere Week and streaming on Paramount Plus.
On Face the Nation, we try to have an informed conversation about the essential issues of the day. The way to learn is to listen to the answers and to ask follow-up questions.
It'll be here, and I think maybe here too. So we're in the middle.
They missed a moment.
Listening to how someone explains themselves is so key to understanding their perspective. And that's why the face-to-face ones we have on Face the Nation are so important.
Welcome back to the CBS News Vice Presidential Debate. It is now time for the closing statement. Senator Vance won the virtual coin toss and elected to go last. So Governor Walz, you are first. You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Senator Vance. Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I appreciate it. But look, the support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift, and a whole bunch of folks in between there. And they don't all agree on everything, but they are truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this country and one where our politics can be better than it is. And I have to tell you that that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something. Not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself. Now look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage. And then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that. Senator Vance tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said, Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way. We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl. And that too has gotten harder with Kamala because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm here for you. God bless you. Good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating in the only vice presidential debate of this election cycle. I'm Laura Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day. Please get out and vote. And for all of us here at CBS News, thank you and good night.
The first and only vice presidential debate. This election is now complete. It was a cordial debate of the kind that people mostly say they want. You've noticed here the two candidates lingering on the stage. That's quite a difference from the presidential debate, in which was not even sure that Vice President Harris and Donald Trump would shake hands.
Governor, how did you think the governor did today?
I appreciate what Tim said about Finland. It was one of the many ways in which Senator Vance agreed with the governor.
Well, you saw a real contrast, right? You saw this slick debater, someone who's had a lot of experience doing it, out there lying. I mean, one after another. And you saw Tim Walz, who's just telling it like it is for the American people in a way that they understand. There's no doubt that Tim Walz won when it comes to the issues that really matter to Americans, especially middle-class Americans and working families.
How do you handle the questions about his inconsistencies and his complete flooding part of his past record of abuse or why they destroyed?
Well, look, I think what you saw is like, a guy who, got a date wrong about a field trip that he took, right? Versus a guy who frankly called his running mate America's Hitler. He called Donald Trump a Nazi. So this is a real contrast.
Should Kamala Yep. Go ahead. Make a path, please. Make a path.
Okay. What it feels, you know what it feels like?
You can see why President Trump picked him. You can see this was by far the best performance here because President Trump was so successful in his first term. All we have to do is get him back. All we have to do is get President Trump back. We can turn the country around. Another thing that JD Vance did tonight, he restored hope. There are millions of Americans who've given up hope that things will never get better, that they're not going to be able to afford things in the future. We're not going to be able to bring down the cost of groceries or bring down the cost of gas. We're not going to be able to make our communities safe. That's exactly what JD Vance and Donald Trump will do. They will make our communities safe. The other thing, too, I think what was exposed tonight is that Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, they're all slogans. There's no substance to any of it. And on answer after answer, Kamala Harris's ticket had nothing to say, but JD Vance showed that the Trump-Vance vision is what's going to save this country.
Hussein?
Excuse me. I want to get out of here.
You hold this one? No.
People out there.
Okay. All right. Tell us, I guess just your initial first impression. We're just getting out here.
Well, first, what a great ending. I think Tim Walz really nailed it on what's disqualifying about Donald Trump and JD Vance. That Donald Trump didn't honor a free and fair election once. And unlike the honorable Mike Pence, JD Vance did not say that he would break it all with Donald Trump and honor the will of the American people. That's disqualifying right then and there. On issue after issue during the debate, Tim Walz pounded away on what we're going to do to reduce healthcare costs, protecting our freedom, our right to choose, and so many other points. But I think the end really brought it home about what's disqualifying about Donald Trump and JD Vance.
I think there was a lot of substantive debate. Can you just tell us about the styles of it?
Well, very different. I mean, obviously, if you're picking a used car salesman, you'd want JD Vance, right? I've been in business. If I ran a car dealership, he's the guy. So you get a slick politician versus a coach, dad, military veteran. And I think that really shined through. Tim Walz is who he is. I've known him for well over a decade. I served with him for 10 years in Congress. This is somebody who's authentic, right? He's not going to be slick. He's not going to be having shifty eyes like JD Vance. He told it. He spoke from the heart on issues that matter to him and really brought it home for the American people.
Who won this election? Sorry.
All right.
We don't know who won this election. Again, I think the ending was really much
This all I think with this being a news cycle right now is important for JD. Time and again, over and over, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz for being all slogans and no substance. But what he also very successfully did was show that with President Trump, we had a great economy, we had a secure border, and when we get President Trump back, we can change all of this immediately. We can bring it all back and make it better. The important thing, Byron, you're a student of the game. You've been doing this for a couple of years. A lot of Americans have given up hope. Many Americans just don't think things are ever going to get better. You can ask anyone on the street, do you think your personal economic situation is going to get better? And many Americans say no. They've given up. They almost quit. But what JD Vance was able to show is with President Trump and Vance, with their policies, America can be great again. We can do this, and it can start on day one.
This was 90 minutes into the
between the candidates, between Walz and Vance. You were
involved in preparation. So that's something you advised him to veer away from personal attacks on Walz and focus more on policy. There's even points where he said, "I agree with you on this, but
Now, JD Vance is a natural. That's the reason why President Trump picked him. President Trump frequently refers to JD Vance as being the best athlete on the board, to use NFL draft terms. But the reason why President Trump likes JD Vance so much is because, like himself, he's true to his vision. And that's what you saw tonight. There's a clear Trump-Vance vision. There is no Kamala Harris, Tim Walz vision. And again, that's why I think Kamala Harris is tonight probably saying, I wish I picked Josh Shapiro.
Do you think President Trump would give a cue on the tone front, the civility tone that we heard from JD Vance tonight and Tim Walz?
Well, different folks have different styles. And I think the other thing, too, is with President Trump, he has to use those tough words to call out the chaos that's happening at our southern border, the way that every community in America has been turned into a border community. If you want to cut through and you want to get that point across, you have to use tough language. And this isn't powder puff football. We have people who are being, hold on 1 second. Family, do you think the families of Lake and Riley, Jocelyn Nunbury, Rachel Morin, do they think that maybe if we had leaders in the White House who had some real policies and kept our border secure, that their loved ones would still be with us? They'd probably rather have that.
My point is, okay, Senator Vance was able to kind of disagree civilly. So
Who are you guys with?
Reuters.
Reuters? We've got a couple folks if you want to talk to them.
Who do you have?
Harris campaign communications director is here. Governor Walz is here. Senator
We
Kelly.
spoke to Governor Bolus.
Bolus, great.
So I'm sorry, I'm just checking my. We're going to try to get in on this, I think.
Do your thing.
Okay.
he's actually a former
Stopped by my predecessor. He stood up to Donald Trump. He's still in Kamala Harris also helped bring down the price of prescription drugs, especially for seniors, by prescription drug price negotiations. So out-of-pocket expenses have come down. They're going to come down more under Project 2025. That's going to go away.
Abortion is considered a winning issue for Democrats usually. Do you think that Walz delivered tonight? Do you think he hit the home run that he needed to hit?
100%. I think he hit the grand slam on that issue, made it perfectly clear to the American people where Donald Trump and JD Vance stand, and that is they do not stand with American women, and it is putting women at risk. There are women dying across our country. Governor Walz mentioned one of them in Georgia, who has died because Donald Trump took away the right of a woman to make this decision between her and her doctor.
Senator, was the governor's answer on China good enough?
Which part?
About whether he was actually there in 1989.
You're talking, I think the question is,
That's why parents are sending their kids now to those schools and not doing
Vance is going to come.
Yes, we saw it skyrocketing.
Maybe we should ask them to find some
See
years
that?
from now.
Maybe.
Oh, that's not it. Let's try to get this.
I'm hoping so. Well, the moderators are supposed to be fair. I think they started off unfair, and then I think they started back. Much worse, obviously, with my father. That stopped.
thankfully, because JD, again, he called it out. They had to cut off the 100% on the facts.